trying to record this video, but there's trucks outside again. What is going on in my quiet little neighborhood? Anyway, so I got to make a follow-up video to my video on Dynamite. I think it was called "Why Everyone Hates Dynamite." This video, I could harp on the same issues, but this has just been a pretty disappointing weekend as far as the comic industry goes. And it's always like this. I start to get my hopes up in thinking that, hey, I have different opinions, but I will be treated kindly and be respected as long as I treat other people with kindness and try to be respectful. Okay, I'm not claiming that I've been perfect. Okay, but I try. I go out of my way to be careful about what I say and to say things with intention, and to treat people with kindness and respect, even when I disagree with them. That's my outlook on life. The truth is that none of that actually matters. The comic book industry it cares more about who you associate with and if you're on the wrong side of the political divide. I'm sorry, that's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about. So, Screen Rant, we already saw that Cecil had a cover come up through Dynamite Comics, which is, again, the least amount of commitment possible between Dynamite and a creator. Very minimal. Here's a crowdfunding campaign. You supply one cover and we'll print it. Basically, this is all it comes down to. You sell it to your own fans, right? But Screen Rant then came out with this because a bunch of what they're calling big name creators, who I haven't even heard of most of these people. They aren't big name creators. I'm sorry, but they're not. They're randos in the comic book industry. That's what this is. But Dynamite loses top talent, people you probably haven't heard of, faces backlash after ComicsGate support. Now, let me clear this up. Dynamite Comics hasn't actually supported. When you say ComicsGate support, again, what does comics? But what does it mean? That's what everyone says, and I can't really answer that question because, however I answer it, 15 other people are going to be upset that I don't represent ComicsGate, that I'm not defining it the correct way. So it's like you just can't win in defining it. So what happens is they're going to go ahead and define it. They're calling it not a movement, not a hate group. They're calling it a harassment campaign. Why do you think they chose those words? Harassment campaign. That's an interesting topic. So ComicsGate support. So what they're insinuating is that Dynamite Comics supports a harassment campaign. A campaign being an initiative with an end in sight. That's what a campaign is. You're campaigning to achieve one goal and then you're finished. You achieved this one thing. A campaign to harass people. They're campaigning to harass people. That's what's going on. Okay? This is absurd. At this point, the reality is, this is the truth, ComicsGate is a network of creators that are crowdfunding books. That's it. You're going to have YouTube people with opinions. Guess what? You have people on Twitter with opinions. All of the people that flipped out over this Cecil cover, they're just people using their social media platforms to have an opinion just like the rest of us. There's no difference other than the fact that more people are going to watch videos and comment, and you know what I mean? Twitter's much less useful. Twitter is very useful, though, for scaring people. Like Nick Barucci. Unfortunate. And this basically solidifies over the weekend. Again, I was starting to get hopeful in that there's going to be a company out there that's mainstream. I mean, it's an indie publisher, really, but they're mainstream enough that they're going to ignore the dogma. They're going to ignore the blatant gaslighting from the far leftists that work in comics. They're going to ignore that, and they're going to treat everyone as individuals. And can you sell comic books? We're going to help you do that. That's what I thought Dynamite was going to be. They're not. This is why the weirdest thing, just as I sort of sit back and think about it, I am only ever going to write for characters that I create. Period. except for Dracula. I didn't create Dracula, but my 11th cousin, 14 times removed, who Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. That's gonna be the vampire book that I'm gonna be putting out, and yeah. Anyway, beside the point. Not their vampire books. Uh, I totally lost track of everything that I'm saying right now. Uh, Basically, what this means, every time you bend the knee to crazy people on Twitter that care about, look at their profiles. Do they care about politics, or do they care about people not being harassed? Because if they cared about not harassing people, they wouldn't be harassing people constantly. All the same people that threw a hissy fit, an adult tantrum on Twitter over this, are the same people that are constantly harassing others. Check it. Tell me I'm wrong. What is different between their harassment and any other harassment they're pointing at? There is no difference other than that you are afraid of them. Dynamite Comics is afraid of them. How telling is that? If he's been working with a harassment campaign, but he doesn't fear this harassment campaign, maybe they're not so bad. Maybe they aren't actually harassing people. Maybe they're not racists. Maybe the harassment campaign is the campaign. It's the group of people on Twitter that have scared you into making business decisions based off of their whims. That sounds like a harassment campaign to me. They got together over the weekend. They decided to cancel a comic book cover. And despite what you think, if you don't like Cecil, if you think he's a terrible person, then just say that. Like, why make it a harassment campaign? Just say you don't like Cecil. Don't make it about something else. Okay, so this was a total hit piece. Not only that, Screen Rant, obviously, we've seen from the Whisper Network. They're all in the same group on Facebook. They talk about this stuff ahead of time. They create a campaign. Project much. They get together and then they decide that they're going to eliminate Dynamite Comics. And here they go. And all right, the group's message is said to be about making better comics, but the campaign has been widely criticized for harassing marginalized creators. All right, wow. Uh, Associating with the alt right. Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. Trying to co-opt the late Darwin Cook. They always bring this thing up. I don't even. I guess I wasn't around. I have no idea what they're even talking about. Who cares? The mainstream comic interest has denounced the group on multiple occasions. So what? You have again, what you're calling the mainstream comic book community is a harassment campaign within comics that is happy to, well, even go this far, keep victims of sexual assault silent. Right? You guys did that. That was you. And then you're the same people that are going to keep anybody that does not toe your political line out of comics. You're doing the exact same thing. It's just insane. They're going to blame you for what they're doing. So then I see this comic tropes. I like this guy's YouTube channel. I think he's entertaining. He's educational. And then he says, "Sure, Dynamite sure shot themselves in the foot this week because he's going off this Screen Rant hit piece." You can read the whole thing. Just Google it. Their evidence is the fact that there are random people like Mark Russell, Christian Ward, Doc Shaner. They're upset, and because they're upset, that stands for the whole of the comic book industry. Okay, so Comic Tropes says, "Oh well, here we go. They really shot themselves in the foot by doing that cover with Cecil." John Malin came and said, "Yeah, things are politically polarized right now." Comic Tropes, I have zero tolerance by CG people. I've seen zero tolerance by CG people. This is just outright lies. Here's one. Don't bother trying to gaslight me, John. We've all seen the racism and harassment and the doxing. Give me one example of doxing. One. I have not seen one example. Not one. Now, the problem is you get into anonymous strangers on the internet. I had a weirdo threaten to dox me, sent me my address. Uh, who do I blame for that? That one weirdo, that one creep. Why would you be blaming? This is ridiculous. The idea that there's a campaign of people that are out harassing and doxing is is just it's just stupid. It's not true. I've never participated in anything like that, and I've never seen racism. What are you talking about? I have looked so hard when I first got into this. I wanted to see examples of racism because that's what they kept saying. It's not there. Tell me comic tropes, guy. Where is it? Where is the racism? Those are huge allegations that you're making, so big that you're willing to prevent people from working in mainstream comics by perpetuating this lie. This is a lie. So what does this mean? Uh, I mean, for me, it means nothing different. I get upset because this is what made me upset in the first place was that your boy Zach had a publishing deal with a small publisher and others saw their way in to prevent it from happening, to keep him out of the industry. Don't tell me there's no blacklist, because that's exactly what happened. Okay, here you go. Here now again. It's just to cover minimal commitment possible, right? But to treat people like anyone else, they need special treatment. If you're ComicsGate, you need special treatment, and that is that you cannot criticize the comic book industry. Otherwise, you cannot work in the comic book industry. This is why all the problems that you have are going to continue. This is why you're never going to have any unbiased reviewers in comics that are going to give unbiased reviews for comic books, because if you do, you will be outcast. That's a fact. That's a bed that you have to lie in. Okay, you're no more objective reviews or critical reviews. You're not going to have any kind of creators that think differently at all, or at least they're going to pretend like they don't, because everyone is afraid of the Twitter mob. And because they call it a harassment campaign, doesn't make it a harassment campaign. These are words they chose. This is new language that they have chosen to use, because it used to be hate group. They changed that because it was stopped being effective. They changed it to harassment campaign because they want you to Google. They want you to search with those terms and see what you find. Okay. Uh, this is ridiculous. It changes nothing for me because guess what? I have Sweet Comics. I also have, late in the video, but Alterna Comics. Peter Simeti is the only existing publisher that had enough guts to stand up to Twitter insanity. I know he lost creators over it. I know he lost friends over it. He said so publicly. He's the only one. So kudos to Alterna Comics. They will be publishing Downcast in single issue, broken up into single issue floppies, starting October is the first issue. They're the only ones. If you hope to work in the mainstream comic book industry, you will not be allowed to. That has been made clear over and over and over again. Okay. So I guess nothing changes. But I still got to say, I like when deals like this happen, because it sort of tests the water, and it makes them act and kick you out of comics. It makes them do it. So that every time they say that there's no blacklist, that they're not doing anything of the sort, you can point back to example after example after example of them doing the same thing. This is cancel culture. Yes, it does exist. I don't know. Said my piece. I'm gonna move on with my day. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Sorry, I got a little bit rambly here. I don't know. I just had to unload this, I guess. So thank you for the therapy. Ultimately, I mean, who cares what they think? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not affecting sales at all. As to what they think. It's all the same people that have been buying the same crap over and over again anyway. It's not like they're out there looking at your indie books, or they're looking for new talent. They're happy with what they have, which is dwindling sales. That's what they want to continue, I suppose. They don't want your business, that's certain. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.